this is an SEO talk. This is a talk I did to a lot of potential clients and customers at a big exhibition in Birmingham and Manchester last week alone. It'll tell you why you're not ranking for number one. But just to quickly begin, bit about me. I run an award-winning digital marketing agency in Leeds, best digital marketing agency for the last 3 years. My experiences, I've got over 10 years experience in the industry. I've worked for some of the leading international agencies in the world, Car into marketing before setting up Bobble Digital back in 2017. I've worked on international, national, local clients, everything from Adidas, Innovate, Bupa to Liverpool Football Club. And most importantly, I'm an advocate of digital marketing education, which is why I'm on this webinar today. Feel free to tag, follow on our social media platforms using @BobbleDigital, or if you're on LinkedIn, connect with me using @Manpreet Singh. So the seminar focus, what do I want you guys to all take away from today's talk is A, understand what SEO really means, understand the 3 pillars of SEO, which I'm going to go through, the best practices to help you reach the top of Google for your independent schools, whilst using cases to show you what that actually looks like. We'll discuss some of the latest Google trends and updates and what this means for you as independent schools and tips and basically how you can grow online. But before I begin, and I know people aren't really on video, so please use the chat function for this. I want you to kind of just think of 2 to 4 specific keywords that if a prospective parent or somebody was going to search for your school, what would they type into Google? If we can just spend 60 seconds just doing that exercise, just type it into the chat, just so I can get a feel and an idea of what it is people would think. Just think of 2 to 4 keywords. Just an example, if it was me as an agency, it would be PPC agency leads. That's 3 keywords right there. So I've got Alex who's putting co-ed prep school, schools near me, girls private school Croydon by Kate Lee, primary academy, girls IB, independent school Harrogate, Harriet Hall's put prep school Surrey. Okay, fantastic. So you kind of know what a potential customer, a potential new student would write, student's parent might write into Google. Now, just put yes in the chat. If you were to type that into Google right now, would your school website appear, forget position 1, on page 1 of Google? So I just want to either show of hands by using the hand option on Zoom, or just press yes into the chat. So if I was to type in independent schools Nortons, okay, we've got 3 people saying yes and one saying not sure. So, and this is the element of SEO. And I'm going to say Laura's put yes if I include near me, but not all schools. No, some people put no. So, and that's the key. So getting to the top of Google isn't easy. There's a lot of elements from a digital marketing perspective, particularly SEO, you need to really focus on to get to the top of one. But it's a good exercise to help you start thinking of what it is people might be searching for to get our schools onto thingy. Gemma Bailey from Pittsford School said yes, but not at the top. So hopefully this presentation is going to help you to get to position 1, even though you are on page 1 of Google. So moving on, this is what position 1 of Google looks like. So that's a date stamp from the 5th of June. Example I gave was PPC agency leads. So everything in the red box, that's paid for. So that's Google Ads. So that's pay-per-click. So you can see there's 3 companies right now in the lead space bidding for the term PPC agency leads, whereas we don't have to do that because once you get to the first organic result, we're number 1. And if you are in the local area and you type in now, we fluctuate between 1 and 2, depending on location, between Clutch. And Clutch have a humongous budget because they're like a Yale.com, their review site. So they have a lot of budget. They review top agencies in the UK. So we're competing with essentially a comparison website, which is very difficult to do in the market space. So this is a case study I want to show is like, how did we get above every other leading agency in Leeds for our agency to be position 1 on just this term? Now, this is just one example. I have over 50 keywords, between 2 to 4 keywords and even longer tail keywords, where if I was to type in, let's say SEO agency leads, video marketing agency leads, marketing strategy agency in leads, or just PPC leads, elements like that, we rank on page 1 for. So it comes from experience, and I'm just going to go through this presentation in terms of what we do to achieve that. One thing I want you to remember is Google is a mountain. It can't be moved, but it can be climbed. And that is essentially SEO. PPC is basically taking the escalator, taking the tram all the way to the top. That's cheating. That's where you bid and pay per click. But from an SEO perspective, think of Google as a mountain. You can't move it, it can be climbed. And this is how I'm going to show you to climb it. And the reason for that is just as a background into SEO in terms of Google, you really need to understand not just the user when it comes to SEO, you need to understand Google as a user, as a platform. The mistake a lot of companies make, whether you're education based, whether you're e-commerce or B2B, is everyone focuses too much on consumer. They forget that it's a platform, it's an algorithm, it's machine learning that you have to accommodate to also improve your rankings. You've got to tick Google's box, and then you've got to tick your customers' boxes. Essentially, so there's the two things you've got to consider. And why? Because when you look at Google and SEO in terms of how many algorithms that happen per day, it's around about 9. We actually believe it's around about 13 to 14 now, because that data is up until 2018. Google stopped releasing algorithm update data back in 2021, so we don't really have the latest figures in terms of what that looks like. But you're looking at 5.6 billion searches a day, 2 trillion searches a year. That's a lot of searches, a lot of content being created, a lot of blogs on the web, and you got to compete with that with individual content, adapt to Google when it changes its algorithm, and making sure that your website is fit for purpose at all times from a Google perspective, but also from a user perspective. And why do I focus on Google more than anything else? Because it is the market leader. 92% of all global search in 2022 was through Google. Bing, Yahoo, Baidu, the rest, all irrelevant, essentially. You can go to the statcounter.com website, have a look. It breaks it down by country and region to show you what is the most powerful search platform tool. In the UK, I believe it's actually high. I think it's 93%. I think in the US, it drops down to around about 90%, where Microsoft has a larger presence in the US. So why do you need to take Google as your priority when it comes to your website and your SEO? Is because it has 92% market share across the world, and predominantly in the UK. So what are the 3 pillars? Let's get straight into it. There's 3 key pillars: technical, content, and links. Now you might think, well, what does any of that mean? So technical is all to do with the site architecture. It's to do with the build, the speed, the structure of your website. Is it user friendly? Have you formatted your URLs correctly? Have you submitted all your websites as a sitemap to Google Search Console? Is it fast to load? Have you got the right structure in place in terms of structured data, titles, descriptions, language tags to, correct parameters for dynamic content? Is all to do with design architecture, future-proofing, speed, and even privacy as well with your website. And that'll become evident with what we talk about further on in the actual talk and webinar. Content is a second pillar. So that's all about keyword research. So that's why I did the exercise earlier. What are the 2 to 4 keywords that you would type into? Because these are the keywords you need to focus on to help you rank on position 1. So for us, it was PPC agency leads. Then you got to optimize that keyword on the website by creating content, optimizing in a logical way, creating new blogs, content to help you rank for key services, key elements that you want to do. You can also use that content for external promotion if you want to do stuff like Google Ads or increase visibility. The final pillar is links. So that's all about the site authority. So we're looking at DA scores, links that come to your website from high authoritative sources. How you position internal links, how you do anchor text, relevancy of websites where that link comes from. It's all about the outreach element of SEO, but that should be the final element of what you should do. You should prioritize technical first, then content, and then links. But technical content links is never like a one-stop shop. Once you've done it, you've done it. It's an ongoing process. So starting with technical SEO. So for those who don't know what technical SEO is, essentially the practices and improvements that make a website easier for the search engines to crawl and index, but also its aim is to meet the needs of the user within that search engine. So like I said, you have to adapt your website, not just for the end user, but also for Google, specifically from a technical point of view. So you get content on your website, Google bots or spiders basically crawl them, review the pages. If it hits the right criteria from a technical perspective, Google starts indexing your pages. And if it's indexed, your page is successful to then rank on Google, the better your page is in terms of answering those questions, the higher you will appear on Google in terms of position 1, page 1, etc. This is a great diagram to kind of explain what I call the foundations of technical. So if you think of it as a 5-pillar pyramid, the bottom 3 are the foundation blocks. That's crawlability, indexability, accessibility, all to do with technical SEO. The top 2 where you can actually have an impact is clickability and rankability. So that comes from the keywords you pick in terms of helping them rank. Clickability is the quality of the content you create around those keywords that you pick, which is when we think about the second pillar, which is content. So first of all, you need to understand, how does Google understand your website? So it uses that through what we call structured data, which are basically different elements on a web page. So that code provides a clear structure to the website code, essentially. So that's what structured data do. It's a process known as what we call markup, and it helps to achieve what we call rich snippets. Now, you might think, what is structured data? So structured data is stuff like job postings, FAQs, recipes, movies, events, anything kind of like that. That's structured data on a specific website. That's what Google looks for. So the reason we will rank for PPC agency leads is because on that page, not only do we have information about what PPC is and the services we offer, we have FAQs on there, we have links to case studies on those pages as well, and internal links to other blogs that talk about PPC services and Google updates. As I said at the start of the presentation, this presentation is going to have loads of links for you to use. So if you click on that complete list here, hyperlink, you'll be able to see a full list of what structured data looks like and use that as an example. Do you have it on your website? Do you don't? Now, in terms of schema markup, which is Google uses JSON LD, which is its preferred schema markup. So if you want to test your structured data, use Google's official tool. Again, click on that hyperlink, and it can easily generate a schema markup for you. So all this work can be done for you, especially if you don't know what it means or what it implies. Use the tools on this page, the links on this page, to help create that element. Remember, Google needs structured data to help understand what your website is about, what it offers, what the content is. Then you've got to consider the latest, biggest update that came out of Google, which is Core Web Vitals. Back in 2018, an update came out called EAT, which stood for Expertise, Authoritativeness, and Trustworthiness. That was all about the content pillar of the SEO pillars. Core Web Vitals is all about the technical pillar when it comes to the biggest update that's come out from Google. Now, earlier I talked about all the algorithm updates and all the updates that come out of Google on a daily basis. Core Web Vitals was a huge update where it really focused on the technical elements of a website in terms of technical SEO. And it looks at 3 key things. Largest contentful paint. So that will be, if you go to a homepage or any individual landing pages, the largest element of that page. Usually it's an image or a video, or it could be a form, for example, or it could be some kind of interactive tool on that website. You have to get a pass score of 2.5 seconds with that. So that means all of that content on that page, even the largest element, has to load within 2.5 seconds. Then you've got the second element it looks at, which is FID, first input delay. So this measures the time from when a user first interacts with the page to when the browser was able to respond. So if you consider your mobile, if you consider your laptop, when you type in that URL and you go to a website, how quickly does that actual web browser and website respond to the user actually going onto it? And you have to get that under 100 milliseconds. That's 0.1 seconds. And cumulative layout shift, the best way to explain this is, if you ever go on a website and you go from one page to another page, whether you're on mobile or on desktop or on tablet, and you see things move around, so you see the headlines or the menu might get distorted from one page to another page, that is cumulative layout shift. That has to be seamless. So when a user goes from a website from one page to the other page, things don't move around much. It's a seamless interaction. You've got to get a passing score again under 0.1 seconds or below. So these are the metrics which are that you've got to pass from a Core Web Vitals, and are the first things from a technical SEO point of view you should focus on. Mobile friendliness. Now, why is that important? If you were to go, there's a free tool you can use, which is called Google Page Speed Insights. So if you type that into Google, it opens up pageinsights.dev. And from that, you can actually type in your homepage URL. And from that, it'll give you your Core Web Vital score. But the focus is always mobile. Why? Because in 2016, Google shifted to mobile first websites. Then in 2021, they moved to mobile first indexing. So if your website is not mobile optimized, forget position one, you're not going to get on page one of Google. You have to be mobile optimized for Google to really get you onto page one. You're never going to get onto page one if you aren't mobile first or you aren't mobile first indexing. And some best practices that you can implement is the content has to be the same on desktop or mobile, no hidden content or code. The Google bot has to be able to render the website on any device seamlessly. Structured data should be tested on both versions. Placement of like ads or any pop-ups or like any kind of like sign up to our school newsletter, for example, needs to have a good actual experience on all devices. Video, images, and smaller content needs to be accounted for. Too many times do people put an image on desktop, but it's not optimized or resized from a size perspective or a image format perspective to actual mobile device. Remember, page speed is key. And if you want to test your mobile friendliness, there's a link to a good website that's free to use, ready mobile that you can use. If you want to test more about Google Search Console, Google's most mobile first tool, use the first indexing tool on that hyperlink at the bottom. That'll tell you how well your website is mobile first indexing or not. And if it's a poor score, it will tell you exactly what elements to improve to get that done. But just to summarize, there's some things you can't forget when it comes to technical redirection. So they're your 404 page errors that come up. So if someone goes to a URL and there's nothing there, or you might have changed that URL to a different extension, you need to make sure that that the user is being followed or moved on to the actual new URL that's being showcased. Sitemaps. On a number of occasions, a sitemap's not submitted to Google Search Console. If you want to know what your sitemap in, type in your domain /sitemap.xml, and you will see what your website sitemap is. It's really important because from that you can determine which pages should Google prioritize to help crawl and rank as opposed to which ones are not relevant. Then you got your robot.txt file. So this basically is the directive that tells basically Google's bots what they can and can't do on a specific website in terms of what they should see and what they shouldn't see. So when they visit any domain for the first time, Google will check the robot.txt file. And if you want to know what that is, again, type in your website domain /robots.txt and it will pull off that file for that individual page or for the whole website. So these are two things that you would need to, from a technical perspective, need to implement with Google Search Console. And that is very, very important because you only get a certain amount of crawl budget. And what I mean crawl budget is certain parameters that Google as a search engine has that if you don't hit those touch points or checklists that Google's bot has within a certain time frame, it's not going to index your page. So if you don't hit all these elements, fast loading, technically responsive, sitemap submitted to Google Search Console with a robot.txt file, if you don't have all those elements in, if you're not telling Google, this is the URLs we want you to crawl, this is the content on those URLs we want you to crawl, and so to help it find it quicker, to rank you quicker, then if it doesn't do that within a certain time frame, then you will not rank for those pages. So if you're wondering, well, I created this great content, or this page, isn't getting the rankings or not ranking for the keywords we want, that's because it's not been indexed by Google's crawl budget or bot. So you need to look at how you've structured the data on that website, how fast loading it is, look at the images, is it mobile first in terms of design and indexing, and tick all those points. So that's technical. Sorry if it was a bit too technical in terms of how I discussed it. I am trying to keep the explanations as clear as I can. Second pillar is content SEO. So remember, you got to remember, websites don't rank for keywords, web pages rank for keywords. So it's not bobbledigital.com that ranks for PPC agency leads in position one. It's bobbledigital.com /PPC services that ranks position one. It's the web page. A common trait I always see is clients, businesses tend to write heavily on their homepage. It's an old school and lazy SEO technique. The homepage is not your only page. You have multiple pages that you need to optimize at an individual level to make sure that everything is perfect and aligned. So what is SEO content? Too many people think content marketing and SEO content is the same thing. It's not. Content marketing is publishing that website, blog, social media accounts, creating that content on your website. SEO is different. So too many times do we say, oh, we can write a blog and we'll post it and that should rank for these keywords. No, that's content marketing where you're creating blogs and articles for your website, maybe even new website landing pages with new services or information about your education or school, etc. that you want to do. It's actually SEO content, which is optimizing for relevant keywords, optimizing titles, descriptions, using linking, the structure of how that content is on that page. That's the SEO element to do it. So you can always get someone to write the content, but you have to SEO that content to do two different things that you should focus on, and are not the same thing. This is a checklist that I want you all to follow when writing content. I want you to write high quality content. So it needs to be informative, relevant, match your audience intent. Focus on keywords, mix in keyword phrases or individual keywords. Avoid keyword stuffing. Don't just write one piece of content and stuff the whole website or that piece of web page with loads of keywords. It's not going to do you any favors. Use the headings available to you. You've got three, H1, H2, H3. That helps add structure to your content, makes it easy for Google's bots to crawl the web page, identify what's in those different headlines, what's in that content to help you rank. Check your content length. Google actually prefers longer form content. Don't just do like 300 words in one paragraph and put it on your website. Think about it logistically, but also don't write a dissertation either. You've got to find that balance. I always say around about, a minimum 1,000, keywords as a blog or article on a website is a good place to start with. Please don't cheat and use ChatGPT because that's just duplicated content, and I'll talk about that later. Focus on readability. Remember, use headlines, bullet points, subheadings, paragraphs. Make it more friendly to read from a user perspective. Break things into chunks and use specific like location phrases. So the reason we rank for PPC Agency Leeds, not PPC Agency UK, is because we're Leeds based. We've used localized keywords as part of the content on that web and meta tags within that heading. So this is a good checklist for you all to follow in writing content. Why is keyword research important? Because you can't write content unless you have a keyword strategy in place. It helps you understand your target market and how you can be found for them. Again, go back to the exercise we did at the start of the talk. It helps you determine which strategic keyword is the target for the website's content. So, what keywords your users are searching for, what keywords you then need to create content for. You need to create a plan and a content plan around that satisfies, remember, not just the user, but also the search engine as well. Look at your competitors with a smart SEO strategy and basically reach wider audiences with online visibility. Your keywords should answer three key questions. What are people searching for, whether it's globally or specifically by country or city? How many people are searching for it? And finally, what format is best to provide that user with that information? Is it going to be an FAQ? Is it going to be a how-to guide? Is it going to be a blog? Is it going to be an article? Is it going to be a new landing page, etc.? Remember, don't forget, websites don't rank for keywords, web pages do. So don't just focus on the homepage, do unique keywords for different landing pages. Keyword intent. Now, I don't know if anyone is aware of the tool SEMrush, or if you use the tool SEMrush. So SEMrush has a key function within it around keyword intent called Keyword Magic Tool. SEMrush is free, so you can go into that website and use it, but you are limited to just 10 page sessions a day. But it is a quite expensive tool to invest into. And it breaks keywords into 4 kinds of intent. Informational, so this is looking, if someone is looking for a specific action or general information. So for example, how to clean sneakers. Navigational intent, so searchers, intend to find a specific site or page. So they could be van sneakers. Commercial intent, so that's where they're looking to investigate products, services, or brands. So they'll tend to have an intent to complete an action or purchase in the upcoming future. So stuff like best sneakers for walking. And then you've got transactional intent. So that's where they're just interested in the action and the purchase, and the final intent, which is buy sneakers online. Too many times do people focus on the commercial intent, transactional intent keywords. You've got to have a good range of keyword intent. Informational navigation is going to help you rank on the website, but you need to have key commercial and transactional intent keywords in your website. I get it. you're not in e-commerce, you are an education, you are a school. So in this instance, it would be people booking onto, let's say, an open day, for example, or parents booking in a viewing of the school. But you've got to have information in terms of, how does a school viewing work, for example, navigational, what days are tours within this specific school, for example, elements like that. Remember, keyword intent is important because it impacts your bounce rate on your website, helps you reach a wider audience, improves your conversions, and you get more featured snippets as a result of it. So if we were to summarize on-page SEO in a nutshell, focus on page content, needs to be unique, informative, include relevant keywords. Good examples of SEO content are blog posts, how-to guides, case studies, and landing pages. Focus on headers, organize content so that readers can understand and distinguish different parts of content. URLs must always be short, include the keywords that you're trying to rank for on that specific page. Don't forget your meta titles and descriptions. Check the maximum length, include the brand name if you can in the title. Don't forget image alt text. So that's where you add a description to an image you have on your website. Tell Google what that image is about. And internal linking. Remember to use internal links. When someone goes to one website page, you want to make sure they jump onto another page to keep them on site longer. That actually helps with your rankings as well. The longer someone is on your website, getting more relevant information, the better you will rank and higher you will rank on Google. And this is just a quick high quality content checklist I've created for you to follow. Avoid duplicate content. ChatGPT is all duplicate content. So if you put a question into ChatGPT and you ask for it to pull out a blog or article around this, if someone else has asked it the exact same question, it's going to give this a similar response. And that duplicated content is going to hinder you because Google doesn't like duplicated content. It likes organic, fresh, rewritten content that's never been written before, which I understand is hard to do and time consuming, but in the longer term is worthwhile. Avoid keyword stuffing as well. Don't just create a landing page and an article with 1,000 words, but then stuff it with like 20 different keywords. Focus on just a handful at a time. And then finally, link and outreach. So this is what we call off page. So off page is all about what we call backlinks that come from reputable websites. Its relevancy is all about popularity, authority, and trustworthiness of your website. It's quality over quantity. Too many times do we see or we audit websites where they've got a lot of links coming from unrelevant, poor quality sources, which is impacting your what we call domain authority within SEO. And there's 4 types of backlinks you can have. You got natural links, so that's obtained without any action. So that could be a local news article website that's featured your school name, but they haven't put a link against your school name in terms of website domain, or you've been featured or mentioned on a social media platform for, let's say, an open day or a charity bake that you might have done for a local charity, for example. Manually built links is the best kind of links you can do. That's when you go out, talk to an influencer, talk to a content team as part of a website. So you might go to, let's say, Yorkshire Evening Post, for example, and say, right, we want to talk about these following updates in schools and we want our website link and this article to feature in it. That's where you're paying to work with Yorkshire Evening Post. You pay for that link to be featured. It's a good quality domain. It comes back to you. Self-created links are where you go onto, directories, forums, blogs. These are usually poor quality, but you can create them yourselves. Stuff like Reddit, if you go on that kind of stuff, or you go into YouTube and go into comment sections, or if you go into general forums, and then you got Web 2.0s where you feature on microblogging websites. It's usually a weak strategy, but it can be done to create some form of links. And then you got follow versus no follow. Remember, follow links are good quality. That means there's a link that follows people to your direct website. No follow don't give you any value. Essentially, you get the brand name value, but you don't get the authority value from an SEO perspective. An example of that is if you use a tool called Href, you can see that when you're looking at where that link is a follow no follow link, it actually tells you if it's a no follow link in the actual URL. And that's an example of what you should look for. And then finally, domain authority. So domain authority isn't a ranking factor by Google, But if you use tools like SEMrush, Ahrefs, or Screaming Frog, domain authority is a score that they come up with. Now, we normally say a good DA is anything between 40 and 60. That's usually good, but always check what your other competitors, independent schools are doing. Remember, domain authority is about the strength of the entire domain or subdomain. What you should really focus on is page authority. That's the strength of an individual web page. Now, if you go and look at our DA, I think we're around about 32, but we have a new website coming out to fix those issues. But the reason we rank PPC agency leads position 1 is because our page authority is very, very strong. So if you're going to prioritize one thing over the other, I'd prioritize page authority over domain authority, because domain authority takes months, if not years, to build over time. Finally, I just want to inform you of some important Google updates that could be impacting your current website's rankings. There was an update in March, which is the top link, and there was a release update in April. So there's 2 links to some articles for you to read on that. There's also a good link about, well, it's not directly impacting yet, but if you're using or relying heavily on videos for your website, the Google video thumbnail is changing, which is impacting the image alt text elements. So have a look and read about that. So if you've got website, if you've got video, either sourced from YouTube, embedded or embedded directly onto your website, have a read about that in terms of how to improve that. And in the future, the way SERP is going to change, which stands for search engine result pages, SERP. That's going to change. It's very scary, a bit exciting. So if you want to get ahead of that in terms of the AI element within that, read the bottom article, which is really important. And if you were to go away and I was going to give you 10 things to focus on, these are the 10 things where your SEO focus should be. But the ones in blue is what you should prioritize first are them. So check your core web vitals, invest in improvements, target longer tail keywords if you can, write high quality long form content, keep up with the basics of SEO. And I've gone through that with the 3 pillars of SEO. And then keyword research should be at the forefront of any focus on niche that you're doing. The rest in terms of like keyword clusters, AI content tools, optimization software, structured data, and Google updates are a given, but focus on those things in the blue. That brings the end of my presentation, and I would actually welcome to open it to any questions people have. Feel free to add it into the chat or